Hi everybody, this is Deborah Bergen from heartfeltinkspiration.com, and I wanted to finally record this video showing you how I create a watercolor swash. I had created some cards on granny apple green card bases using this technique, and I never did get the video perfected. So I'm not promising perfection, but I'll try this again. Okay, so watercolor swash is ink and water and paper. And I'm wearing my apron because sometimes the ink and the water together create, how shall I say, problems. So let's talk about what we've got here. I have a palette. This came from Michael's with lots of wells in here. I'm using 3 different colors. I'm going to approximate the same sample that I put on my blog a couple weeks ago. There I used Daffodil Delight, Balmy Blue, and Real Red re-inkers, and I just put a couple drops into each one of these wells. I don't typically label the wells when I'm doing this myself, except that you might be able to tell. It's very hard to tell the difference between these two. So keeping these labeled, I just did that with a Sharpie, and you can just erase it with rubbing alcohol. Keeps me organized. Okay, so re-inkers, refills. I also have some cotton rounds. These are makeup remover things, and that is going to help clean my water brush, which is the Aqua Painter that is discontinued, retired from the current annual catalog. This one is labeled large. So the Aqua Painters came in 2 different sizes, large and medium. And I want a pretty significant tip so I can make really bold swashes. And you can tell, I think you can probably see on my finger that this is wet. And you can also see I have a lot of water in here. Okay, to prepare my palette, I've again already put in a couple drops of refills, and I'm going to drop some water. Now, of course, you can see the difference here. And because I want these to be a little on the pastel side, I'm going to put quite a bit of water. Okay, and I'll put this to the side. Okay, really important is my paper. And although I have told people, go ahead and experiment with regular Whisper White paper, thick would be better, or what I sometimes use to watercolor is shimmery white. The best paper is our watercolor paper. And you know what? I did not bring the Fluid 100 package here. I'm just going to stop this for a second. Okay, the Fluid 100 watercolored paper that Stampin' Up! Has, product number 149612, is 5 inches by 7 inches. There are 10 sheets of it in this packet. It is, as you see, 100% cotton. The benefit of working with real watercolor paper is that it can handle a lot of water. Whisper White, no. Thick Whisper White, a little bit more. But the more you work with the water on Whisper White paper, the more the paper breaks down and starts to pill. So that's not too good. Shimmery white paper is a little better. It can take a little bit more water. But if you really want to get this beautiful sheer swash, you really want to use watercolor paper. Okay, I'm going to start my first sample with just refill on dry paper. So one of the things that I have learned about working with watercolor and this particular technique is that when people have problems getting this really pretty sort of floaty effect, it's because they're not using enough water. So if your brush is dry or you don't have enough water with your refill, you're pretty much pushing the ink on your paper, or what I call scraping it, instead of floating it on. So make sure that you've got plenty of water here and that your brush is wet. Okay, so let's see what this looks like. So I'm seeing this, and I'm just going to take and just sideways, I don't really care how this turns out. So see how that is? It's pretty sheer. It's very wet. And I'm just going to take a little bit more and just put another partial stripe there. Okay, now the cotton round, squeezing the barrel of this until pretty much the water runs clear. Okay, so now the balmy blue. And I'm going to float that color on next to it and a little bit over it. Now, I don't really want to have stripes per se, so I'm just going to move that around. You see how much water is on this? Is that the colors are starting to blend back and forth. That's either the way that you want it or you don't like that. So know that if wet touches wet, you're going to get a bleeding. Okay, and then finally real red. I think I said in my blog post about this that when I did this the first time and my video was bad, I forgot to turn off the video before I said out loud, "This is hideous," because I really didn't like the way it looked. Now, I will say this is going to dry lighter, and look at all this beautiful blending back and forth. It's so pretty. So I'm going to put that to the side. I just love this. Now, this is, again, really wet. I can do a couple things here. What I don't want to do is take my heat tool to it because it's wet and I don't want to push the ink. I don't want to blow the ink on the paper. So I'm just going to leave it alone. When it doesn't look so pooled, when it's dampish but not pooled, I'm going to take, where's my other prop? Something else I forgot to get. Okay, didn't bring this over. I'm going to take a double piece of copy paper, fold it in half, put this inside, put it in a book, and sit on it. That's what we call, in this family, a butt press. My grandson finds that quite hilarious. And it presses out the wrinkles or the buckling, and then it dries between those two pieces of paper. What you might think, hey, why not just take a piece of paper towel and blot it? In my experience, this is worth doing because the effect is maybe not what you're going to expect. But my experience has been, and I think there's some kind of chemical reaction between the paper towel and the ink or this paper or whatever, is that the color really changes of your ink. So try that. Okay, I'm going to put this one to the side. I don't know where my Little House on the Prairie book is, which is what I use for a butt press. No offense to anybody. Okay, now let's try a different technique, which is wet ink, on wet paper. So I'm going to take my aqua painter. I'm just going to make sure it's clean before I do this, or pretty clean. I'm going to wet my paper. So I don't know if you can see that, but it's... Okay, this time I'm not going to actually brush as much as I am going to just drop. I'm just squeezing out the drops. Okay, see how that looks? Okay, I'll pick up a little balmy blue and I'm going to squeeze it out. Look how much this is spreading. That's your wet on wet. And finally, the real red. This looks like blood. Like, oh, sorry about that. Okay, now we're going to let that dry. This paper is really, really wet. You can see it. And if I were to tilt this, this would be running on the paper. I don't really want that. I mean, the blood effect is one thing, but the dripping blood, no, I don't want that. Okay, so again, I let this dry until there are no more pools of water. Then I stick it between the paper, stick it inside the book, and sit on it. All right, I hope that helps. I don't know, I might make these into a card, or I don't know what. Did I say that this is 4 inches by 5 1/4? That's, no, I may have said that, but that's not what I meant. 3 1/2 by 2. Okay, never mind. I don't know. This is 3/4 of an inch less than a full card front. Well, Deborah, you've got a ruler right here. It is 3.5 by 4 3/4. You probably can't see that, but that's what it is. Okay, I will see you next time. Thank you. Bye.